Greetings and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom, where we will sip, savor, and elevate our minds. I am Dr. Carlia East, your hostess today with the mostest, and I'm super excited to bring to you a Q&A format of Wine and Wisdom, which is an opportunity for you all to send me questions and I answer them straight up. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So the first question is, what would you say are the 5 key components to have in a strong relationship? Okay, 5 key components to have in a relationship. So first of all, you have to have emotional stability or care for one another. So let's start with that. Oftentimes we will say, well, you need to love the person. But every relationship, to make it strong, is not just based on love. It's also based upon care. And what I will tell you is that when you care for a person, you're careful with that person. You monitor your steps. You monitor their steps so that you guys are careful with one another, not in a punitive way, but just making sure that you're stepping in the way that you should towards each other in a respectful manner. And so when you end up being careless, you start caring less about the individual that you're in the relationship. So I would say, having that care and being aware of those emotions is going to be important. Number 2, you need communication. Bottom line, you need to be able to communicate one another. That means speak on it. Do not stutter. But that also means giving each other that space, or I know y'all go look funny, permission to be transparent about what we feel. And what I mean by that is sometimes we're in these relationships where we haven't even told the person, hey, you know what? I want us to be transparent. I want us to talk about things. If it's difficult for you to approach something, let's figure out a way for us to approach it. We don't have those conversations. We don't let the person know that, listen, you can approach me on anything, or we don't tell them how to approach us about things that are difficult so that they will be received. And so it's not necessarily just about having communication, but also the allowances that you give to one another to actually communicate, because then you got to be open to receiving that communication, which is like part 2 of that, right? So your ability to receive it and take it and ingest it is also going to be a key component. The next thing you need is honesty. Absolutely. You need to be honest. You need to be transparent with one another. And I mean very, very honest. If there's something that your partner is doing or a way in which he or she is moving and you're not appreciative of that, then keep that a buck. Listen, when you just did that, that wasn't attractive to me, or that, made me feel some type of way, or made me feel disrespected, or I don't like, the energy that gives. We need to keep it 100 with folks, because if we're going to be in love in a relationship, we need to be able to talk about what we like and what we don't like, what we want and what we don't want, what offends us and what doesn't offend us. And if you are even apprehensive at all about having that conversation and speaking your truth about that, then there's an issue there with you being able to communicate openly with your partner. And that is not a good thing. Okay, that's not a good thing. Next, you got to have trust with one another. That comes with the honesty. You got to be able to trust each other. You say you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, let me know that there's a delay. That helps me to continue to trust you even more, so that I don't feel like I'm just being dismissed, or my feelings aren't valid, or, I'm not important in this particular equation. And so trust is something that's necessary, but the follow through of the trust is necessary as well. So you got to make sure that you're a woman or man of your word, because that is your bond. The next is acceptance, right? Acceptance and respect overall, but accepting the person for where they are in their journey, whether it's their spiritual journey, their sexual journey, their financial journey, their emotional journey, right? We have to respect where they are. So if you're trying to get into a relationship with someone and you're already seeing some areas where they're not necessarily as mature as you, or hasn't had the experiences that you've had, and you are already in your mind thinking how you can make him or her better, right? How you can upgrade them. Stop. First of all, that's not for you to upgrade and make them better. Maybe they feel perfectly graded and great and best by themselves. So stop with that. This is about acceptance. I don't want to be with somebody that feels like they need to upgrade me. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't need you coming to the table trying to figure out things about me that are a problem for you, because that means that I'm a problem for you. And we shouldn't be together, boo, because I'm not a project. Okay, I'm a human. And so I think we have to be careful about acceptance and being sure that we are really accepting the person for where they are. That means working with them. That doesn't mean that we're not going to guide them and try to motivate them and propel them to be better. But if you're already coming to the table talking about, but girl, I can change that. He can be better. I just get to teach him how to do that. No, you don't. Sweetheart, if he hasn't learned whatever it is that you need him to learn, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That doesn't even mean there's something wrong with him. That means that both of y'all dipping into the wrong dating pool. He need to dip to where he can, and you need to swim to where you can. Hello, somebody. Now, Lastly is patience. Because we can have all this love, respect, trust, honesty, communication, and all that. But if we're not patient with one another, all of this shit will fall on deaf ears. Let me tell y'all when patience is important. When shit pop off, that's when patience is important. When they lose their damn minds, that's where patience is important. When life comes in and kicks your ass, that's where patience is important. Or what about when you mess up on your own shit? Okay. So that patience is key for understanding and maintaining that dynamic. It's always growing and it's always developing. Your relationship is. And so that patience has to grow and develop as well. There may be things that you totally tolerated in the beginning of the relationship because it was new and you guys were figuring each other out that, like, hey, at this point, bruh, chick, I'm gonna need you to get it together. There also may be areas where you guys have learned that lesson. You've healed, you've learned your lesson, he's learned his lesson, and now you guys are moving on. So there's going to be new lessons that need to be learned. As long as you're in a relationship, hopefully there's opportunities for you all to grow and expand and expound and build upon. Hopefully it's not stagnant and the same, because that means no one's changing and no one's growing. Okay. So I hope that was helpful as far as some of the 5 things that you really need to look at in your relationship. And if you're finding that those things are not present in your relationship, then you may need to take a closer look at what you're in. Are you in a relationship? Are you in a situationship? Are you just in a ship? Are you the only one in there with the paddle? I'm just saying, holla at me if that's the case. Everybody, I get y'all together. Okay. Question number 2, and I think we're only going to have time for 2 today because that one was pretty long. Okay, here's a good one. I recently came out to my friends, which is not a big surprise to them at all because they always suspected I was gay. Okay. But I am terrified of coming out to my family, specifically my parents. What do you think I should do? Okay. Now, this is a big one. And, whoever sent this in, my heart goes out to you because I know how difficult that is. I even hate that you even got to come out, boo. Why you even got to come out? Like, why you just can't be? And it's just what it is. But that's a whole nother soapbox later. Okay. First of all, I think that it's amazing that you've been and are being true to yourself, because that is pivotal. Honey, what kills us is stress, okay? And the stress sometimes that we put on ourselves because of the expectations that we have from other people. So, kudos to you for living your truth. And I applaud you for choosing what is right for you in that particular moment and how you should handle it. I think it's a great thing that you chose to go to your friends who you know are supportive. You knew those were the safest place for you to start with because you kind of knew that they already knew what the deal was and would accept you. So I'm going to tell you to take that, all right, and, take it to the second power and do it again. You want to rinse and repeat, meaning pick a family member. I know that you're afraid of your parents particularly, but pick a family member that you know is going to be open or at least accepting of your identity and who you are. It helps to have that support. If you have a family member that's already on board, it helps to know that you have that family member to fall back on in case, your conversation with your parents doesn't work well. Be prepared for, them maybe not to receive you with open arms, because that way we have a backup plan of support and love and care that's here for me. Also, be prepared for your family members to ask you questions, and you can't get pissed off, right? Like, I know, and I'm not talking about disrespect and stuff like that. Like, we're not going to take disrespect. If it's disrespect, listen, I told you, you're going to disrespect me. I got to pause, flag on the play. I got to walk away because I'm not going to be disrespected. I already took a long time for me to get here, mom and daddy. Y'all ain't going to disrespect me on top of it. But you have to be open for them to ask questions, for them to figure out, for there to, maybe be some ignorant questions, for them maybe to feel like they did something wrong. I mean, these are all natural responses for parents who ultimately want the best for our kids, and we want them to be happy and healthy. And we know that sometimes there are challenges and obstacles that occur depending on the lifestyle that we live. But you have to be prepared for their feelings of confusion, and you have to be willing to give them space to recognize and to accept you, because it took you time to recognize and accept you and get to that place where you can stand in the mirror 10 toes down and feel proud of who you are. They need time and space as well. However, let me say this. If they are initially unwilling to do so and meet you halfway, then you show them the grace that they did not show you. And you lead by example and you live with love always, because that's what we're here to do. And again, you already got your friends and your family member as a backup. It's not an easy journey, but it's one that's worth traveling. Okay? Listen, I hope you guys have enjoyed my wine and wisdom. This was an awesome opportunity. Please submit your questions. Be healthy, be safe. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Bye.